So it's saying preparing. And I think we may be going strong here pretty soon. All right. Well, greetings, everyone who's watching right now. Sorry. All right, I think we're good now. So greetings, everyone who's on with us, who's watching live, those who may be watching afterward. We thank you for taking the time to be with us right now. My name is Brian English. I'm with the UT Youth Engagement Center, and this is our speaker series. And so we're excited. We have a great guest who's going to share some things about his background, some wonderful, even fun facts about himself. His name is Isaac Foz. So Isaac, could you take just a couple seconds to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Brian, so much for the invitation. I'm really excited to be here and speak with you and the audience is watching. A little bit about myself. I always like to share that I'm a child of immigrants. My parents immigrated to Dallas, Texas from Mexico, literally with one suitcase each. They sacrificed, worked hard to give us that opportunity to receive an education and to also work hard and sort of create a path for ourselves and for our families that were to come. So education to me is really important. It really is a game changer. It really is an equalizer and does things that we want to do to get us out of poverty, to help us with our families, to help our community. So I'm really excited to be here to share some of my stories and hopefully have some other students that can keep carrying the mantle in advocacy and law work and continue fighting for our community. So thank you so much. Look forward to the conversation.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, I think it's good for our students and some of our colleagues and partners who work with students to kind of hear that background and the success story that comes along with it, just to have that sense of hope, that sense of belonging. So we appreciate you for sharing that. So one thing that we like to do whenever we have guests is we like to get to know you on a personal level. So we got a couple of things we want to know about you. So the first one is, okay, actually, the first one is, since the pandemic, we've been more at home. So what are you watching right now? What are you listening to right now? Let us know about that.
So, no, that's a good question. So watching, I mean, like many people, I started watching Netflix and, watching everything that I could just to kind of stay entertained when I was at home. But to be honest with you, I'm kind of a nerd. I love watching, I watch Meet the Press. I love watching news shows and programming. I love watching those kind of things to learn what's happening, because in my world, in advocacy and what we're doing, it's like time happens, things move quickly. So I always feel like if I'm not watching or reading something about work-related advocacy, policy, things like that, I may be missing something. So I'm always watching news programs, but listening, my Spotify playlist is crazy. It's all over the place. I mean, I love hip hop. I love Latin rock. I love Latin, all types of Latino music from Bad Bunny to Maluma to Maná to you name it, old school, new school.
Okay.
So if you were to jump in my truck today and hit play, you would hear some crazy stuff come across my speakers. I love all kinds of music and it's really energizing for me, but not to be controversial, but I also love talk show programs. I love listening to Howard Stern. I listen to NPR because again, I try to keep up with what's happening. So that's what you would hear in my car if you were to hop in.
That's good. That means you have a wide palette. I mean, that means you're open, you're diverse, you're inclusive, all that good stuff. So that's good. I wish I was as diverse. I'm trying to get my political knowledge to a greater level. So I'm trying to increase in that area and finances as well. So I'm trying to grow. All right. So
I'm happy to recommend some shows and some playlists as well. Anytime.
Please. All right. So what are you, you have some people who during this time frame who've been home that, we've kind of binged out on food a little bit, so what's in your pantry? What's in your fridge? What drive-through are you in right now?
Okay, so I'm gonna blame my 2-year-old on this one. Okay, so
right, you gotta blame the kids. You gotta blame the kids.
I gotta blame her. I gotta blame my 2-year-old. She loves Oreo cookies, and I love secretly Oreo cookies. Maybe not so secretly anymore. So I buy Oreo cookies for her, And then she's
Right.
able to have 2 cookies when she's done a good job. We give her 2 Oreo cookies, but if she has 2, I have to have 2 as well. And I may sneak in a 3rd and a 4th cookie
Right.
at the same time. So I'm a big fan of Oreo cookies, and I love Doritos. So I think she and I have been able to bond over Doritos and Oreo cookies during this pandemic. And what's crazy is that, you know, she loves pizza as well, as many of us do out here. And one of the things I've discovered is all the different kinds of frozen pizzas out there, which ones I really like, which ones I avoid now. But that's sort of what I've been binging on and snacking on. And, you know, good thing we're not showing my full body, because I need to maybe do something else to get in summer shape ready. But that's what I'm snacking on during this time.
Listen, I call it the dad tax. So, you know, if any fries come through the house, if any cookies come through the house, you got to pay tax to the person that's paying the bills. That's the dad tax. So that's acceptable. That's okay.
I'm gonna borrow that. Thank you.
All right. So can you give us like a fun fact about you? Because you know, you're a very accomplished person. We just learned about how you kind of listen to some very hardcore intellectual stuff. But like, what's a fun fact about you that you want to share?
You know, I'll share 2 fun facts. One of them is I played alto saxophone in
Okay,
marching band. I was in jazz band.
I did too.
There you go, man. Alto saxy, right? So I was in marching band. I was in jazz band at Skyline High School. I started playing saxophone at elementary school in Stevens Park here in Oak Cliff, and I went to W. Griner here in Oak Cliff. I live in Oak Cliff now. I still live in Oak Cliff. So I started playing alto sax then and continued through high school. So that's a fun fact. A lot of people don't know I played alto sax. The other one that I always like to share is I was actually on a Whataburger commercial. I was in a Whataburger commercial that aired for about a year in 2018 into 2019, and it was all in Spanish. So I got to chow down on my favorite hamburger, which I love, Whataburger. It was double meat, double cheese, jalapenos, bacon, and avocado, if you can imagine that. And take after take, I enjoyed just chowing down on that Whataburger. I should probably say that after I just mentioned the cookies situation here, but but that's another fun fact that I was on the Spanish commercial for Whataburger. And the great thing was that it's orange. UT is burnt orange, so I feel like it was a little bit of going home as well. So yeah, that's another fun fact.
That sounds like a phenomenal experience. Anytime you get to, have several takes of eating Whataburger, that sounds like a good time. So you mentioned Oak Cliff, right? You mentioned Griner Middle School. I'm actually, I went to middle school at Griner Middle School as well myself. So we're 2 Dallas natives, but I just want to learn more about, your upbringing. So just, can you let us know just about your background story, everything pre-college? Just give us your background.
Sure. As I mentioned off the top, and it's something that's really important to me, is always talking about my background, my parents specifically being immigrants from Mexico, because it's really important to me. Immigration is really important to me. Your family is really important to me. And, when they arrived here, they really sacrificed to give us those opportunities to study and to do what we needed to do. So I always like sharing that. And, I grew up in Oak Cliff. It's a neighborhood that I love, that's going through a lot of different transitions. But it's important for students, prospective students, high school students, middle school students, everybody out there, that it doesn't matter where you were born and the circumstances in which you were born. You have that opportunity to try to change them as much as possible. And the best thing is there's wonderful individuals that want to help out, like the UT Youth Engagement Center and Brian and the people in your office and others, teachers, counselors, community members. I learned that also, that there's people there that want to help out to help you reach your goals. But I grew up here, went to Stevens Park, then went to Griner Middle School. I actually started at L. O'Donnell, then went to Stevens Park, then went to Griner, and Sunset is my home school. But I ended up at Skyline High School for a cluster program, which really launched my career and put me on the path where I am today. I was fortunate to work and intern during high school. Shout out to my teacher, Garza, who was our RTF teacher there. That really put me on track because I was able to land an internship at Univision. That was really helpful. I learned so much there. But also, I was able to work and go to school because before I went to UT, I actually started at Dallas College, which back then, or a year ago, was called Dallas County Community College. for me, it was the right choice at that time to be able to go to school, have access to an affordable higher education that provided me the right path to get to UT. So that I was able to go to the community college, able to work and save up some money so then I could go to the University of Texas at Austin. And then once I got there, obviously my life changed even more and I found so many different opportunities. But that was my path. And for me, it was about working. I had to work part-time in high school through college. There was so many things that were happening in my life, but it was still the opportunity to be able to achieve my dream, which to get a college degree, because my parents arrived here and they didn't graduate from high school. They had different challenges in their life, and they knew they had to work to give us those opportunities as well. So I'm very grateful for that, and again, that's really important to me. But that was my life pre-UT, and of course, I was involved in band. I was involved in a couple of other organizations in high school, just to stay active, to stay busy, to build sort of a better quote unquote Isaac, to learn more and to have different, to have a different sort of view on life at that age. And then at community college as well, being active in different organizations to help prepare me. But that was me pre-UT, and yeah, then things changed once I got there.
Cool. So Oak Cliff native, and the schools that you mentioned, both Skyline, Sunset, are two schools that we have been working with for several years. And even with Dallas College, we're trying to create a partnership with them because we understand, like you mentioned, for you at that time, that was the great choice, or that was the best choice. And so we understand that. So even at UT, we're trying to do a better job of expanding the work that we do. So thank you for sharing that. Speaking of UT, of course, we're the UT Youth Engagement Center here in Dallas. And so our work goes from working with high school students, hopefully soon middle school students, to keeping that relationship with our students who end up going to college and who ultimately, even if they go to UT, we have a great connection with them. If they go elsewhere, we maintain relationships with them. But specifically for UT, tell us about that experience. I know that's a wide open question, but just share with us your experience about UT, what you encountered, how it benefited you, what you learned.
I'm going to say something, Brian, that maybe you've heard before. It was the best time of my life. On the 40 acres, I mean, I got to learn so much, to experience so many different things, to take so many different classes that I wasn't able to take, previously, or learn things that I wasn't able to learn even in high school. I think it was a different challenge for me, not only academically, but socially. And it was just a wonderful experience. I've made lifelong friends that I'm still in contact today, that I text with normally, that I call with, that I spend the night at their house, that they spend the night at my house. That in my career, it's helped me when I've moved on, even to Washington, D.C., finding sort of those UT connections in Washington, D.C., or when I went back to work at the Texas Capitol, finding those UT connections working inside the Texas Capitol. It's been something that's paid off, over and over for itself, was that investment in the UT education. But it was really when I was there that I sort of grew as a person, really sort of learned about the environment, what was happening. Really, that was what really sort of sparked my interest even more in advocacy and law, and trying to do what I could to make a positive impact in our community. So I really credit UT, and I'm proud to say that I contribute to the University of Texas at Austin, because it's important to me, because I want other Latino students, other students of color, to have the opportunities that I did. I want UT to be as diverse as Texas is diverse. So it's important for me to stay engaged, to making sure that I'm doing everything I can to hopefully share my story, that people can be successful, right? Even if you think you're from Oak Cliff and you don't have those opportunities, don't think that, because you can have those opportunities and you could do well at the University of Texas at Austin. I'm proof of it. I have plenty of friends that came to Texas with me from Oak Cliff, that we've done really well. So don't be afraid of saying, you know what, maybe I don't want to leave home. It's okay to leave home, because you can always go back. I'm literally back in Oak Cliff right now, less than 5 minutes from where I grew up. So I was able to go work, travel, work in DC, work in the White House, travel the world, and then still come back to Oak Cliff. So you can always come back home. That's not the issue, but it's okay to take a step forward and maybe have a different challenge and broaden your horizons a little bit, because it really changes your life, and it changed mine in such a good way.
Thank you, and thank you for putting that teaser in there about the White House. We'll get to that in a second. That's the gold that I want to get to. But I thank you for what you said. For our students, from Oak Cliff to our students who are Latinx, who are students of color, you're kind of in, intentionally on this series because of that reason, to show people that look like you that there's a place for them, that they belong at the university, UT Austin, and even if they have aspirations elsewhere. I mean, we want students to know about UT and apply to UT, but we also want them to be exposed to other opportunities. But you're, proof that this kid from Oak Cliff can make it and do great things and go to UT, go to law school. We'll get to that in a second. And for everyone that's watching, this is not just lip service for Isaac. Isaac is actually, he mentioned contributing to the university, but also he's on our advisory board for the UT Youth Engagement Center in Dallas as well. So he's not just saying this. It's actually something that he does. It's something that he wants to give back. He wants to create opportunities for younger people. So thank you for sharing that again. The next question is, there may be others like me who are watching. I'm not the smartest cat in the world. The thing that I know that's not for me, that's for extremely smart people, is law school. Okay, that's a whole new ball game. That's a different mindset. So for people who may be considering a law degree, can you walk them through from the application process, or even like just having the mindset of law school, how that formulated in your mind, the application process, and then just even your experience in law school? Can you walk us through that?
Sure. Law school really opens so many different doors. You don't just have to be an attorney. And I always like sharing that, because I am not your traditional attorney. I am not the attorney that's working on mergers and acquisitions or going to court, or, I'm not that type of attorney. I'm a different attorney. I'm a non-traditional attorney. So I always like sharing that with people, because I really believe law school provides so many different opportunities. And, when I was thinking about law school, I always like to share this brief story. Henry Cisneros, who used to be the former mayor of San Antonio, I was very fortunate. I was working at the time on a campaign, and we were meeting with him. And I asked, I was like, hey, you went to Harvard, got your master's, I think it was a public administration, and I'm like, why did you pick that over law school? And Henry Cisneros told me, he looked at me in the eye, he's like, if I had to do it over, I would pick law school. And after that, I was like, done, I'm picking law school as well. I think it's important, because he was right. It opened so many different doors. And when you're thinking about law school, here's the one thing that I didn't know, because as I mentioned earlier, my parents didn't go to college. I was the first one in my family to graduate from a four-year university. So I had to ask questions to friends, lean on people for help and guidance. The one thing I didn't know then was that you don't have to be pre-law. You don't have to study a certain major. I'm a communications major. My specialty was radio, television, and film. I thought I was going to be a general manager for a TV station. But even then, I knew that having a law degree would help me, would benefit my career. So if you're thinking about law school, don't think that you have to have a government degree. Don't think you have to have a specific degree. Have a degree, because that's what counts. You need to graduate, obviously, with a four-year degree, with a bachelor's degree. Also, you need to take a test that's called the LSAT, LSAT. That test has nothing to do with your success rate in law school. But it's a test nonetheless that you have to take to enter law school. So I always suggest students, take plenty of practice tests for the LSAT, because it's really going to determine where you're able to go to law school. And then after that, of course, once you're in law school, it's very similar. I took a break between my graduating from the University of Texas at Austin before I entered Thurgood Marshall School of Law in Houston, Texas. There was a little bit of a break for me where I worked in Dallas and in Austin. But the one good thing was I really felt that even when I started law school, the work is different, but I felt prepared, because I had been to the University of Texas, and I felt if I could succeed there, I could succeed anywhere. And it really prepared me for some of the courses, and I knew what to expect. So if I tell students now, do plenty of reading, do writing. One of the things that we lack now is students or individuals that can read and write well. It's something that's a lost art. And if we have more of that, you'll be able to find more jobs and more opportunities if you're a good writer as well. So yeah, take the LSAT, plan at least a year in advance before you apply to law school to take the LSAT. You need letters of recommendation. Think of a good story, because you have to submit as part of your application package an essay. And we're used to writing essays. Your students now, whether you're in middle school or high school, prospective students, grad students, whoever's watching, even people in professional careers, we all have to write. Either you're writing a white paper, you're writing an essay, you're writing research, a journal, whatever it is, you have to write. So prepare and think about a good story to tell to the admissions individuals about you, who you are, what makes you unique. I talked a little bit about my background. I talked about being bilingual. I learned Spanish before I learned English, things like that. I shared about my experiences, my real life experiences, because I had that gap between my bachelor's and my law degree. So prepare to write, get ready to write, study, take plenty of practice exams. And now there's so many different organizations that will help you either find a scholarship for the LSAT, so that way you don't have to pay for it, or help you find a scholarship to take a course that prepares you for the LSAT. And if you can take a course, I definitely recommend it. It helps you out.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because that's one of the biggest questions that we get is, I want to go to law school. What do I do? Do I major in pre-law? What do I major in? So it's helpful for them to know from you, you can major in a variety of different things, but you have to be prepared for the LSAT, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that LSAT's really was going to determine essentially where you end up in law school. That in your essay, you really have to focus on writing a good essay and telling your story. And nowadays, with everything that students do, from TikTok to Instagram, you're telling stories. And now think about putting those stories into words, and then that could be a good essay for you.
Absolutely, yeah. And we have a camp that we do in the summer, which is called Bevo Boot Camp. That's one of the focuses is we're going to sit you down and we're going to write these essays, whether you like it or not. So we try to emphasize the importance of writing, as you said, anything that you do, white papers, emails, essays, there's going to be an element of writing. And so we try to get that into the young folks' mindset right away. So you go to law school. Can you walk us through, after you finish law school, eventually you're at the White House, you're working at the White House. So can you tell us that journey and up to working in the White House and that experience?
Yeah, absolutely. But before I do, let me just touch on one more thing about law school. And you mentioned sort of writing and continue to write and practice writing. Reading is such an important part of that, because that helps you become a better writer. And here's a tip. I know people who are watching, there's future lawyers who are watching this video. And here's a little tip I want to share with you. Once you graduate law school and you take all your finals, it's not over. You still have to be licensed by the state of Texas, and you have to pass another exam that in Texas is about 3 days long. So there's a lot of writing, a lot of reading, and the more experience and practice you have, the faster you are to process and to answer these questions and to be able to pass that exam on the first try. Thankfully, I passed it on the first try, because I would never want to sit for another 3-day exam in my life. Let me tell you that much. But moving on to the White House, working in sort of government affairs and studying and practicing everything I did, I worked at the Texas Capitol for the MALC chairman, Representative Rafael Anchia, who's also the state representative here in Oak Cliff. Worked for him at the Texas Capitol. I worked at AARP, also doing advocacy work. And then, all those experiences that I had, including my law degree, really prepared me and set me up to be able to have that opportunity. Because, and I'll mention this later, but 3 things I always like to talk about is you have to build and you have to protect your network. That's really important. Your network is what helps you sometimes open doors. And there's nothing wrong with that, because everyone else does it. Because sometimes you have to tell your story, but it's also important that other people tell your story, and other people maybe have a relationship and says, oh, I know Brian, he is this good. It's not only on paper, I can validate for Brian. And that's really important. So you have to build and protect your network. You have to work hard, read, write, invest time to learn your craft. And then you have to be kind. People will always remember you 10 years, 15 years, 20 years later, even from college. People are, oh, you were so nice. I remember you did this. To me, I think I get that from my mom. My mom was always super kind with everyone in the community. She cut hair. She had a beauty salon in Farmers Branch, and it was like a community center, but she was always so kind to everyone. And I used to watch that, and I was like, yeah, that's how you're supposed to be with people, because people will remember that, and it pays dividends in the future as well. So protect and build your network, work hard, and be kind. I think I really focused on those 3, sort of what I wanted to do and who I was, and made me me. And that really helped sort of propel me to that opportunity in the White House. Because once I got there, you have to perform. There's no other plan B. Like, this is what we're doing. And when you're an appointee in the White House office of the U.S. Trade Representative, there's plenty of work, there's plenty of stress, and there's plenty of other things going on. So you need to learn how to prioritize, you need to adapt and learn quickly. And then those three things that, that I sort of gained growing up: protect and build my network, work hard and be kind, pay off at that point as well. But working in the White House, Brian, is such a unique experience because it is exhausting work. As you can imagine, it's almost 24/7 type of work. But you meet so many wonderful people, so many people who are so bright. I mean, they're just intelligent, they're prepared, they work hard just as you, so it helps elevate your game. And as you know, you always want to surround yourself with people who are going to help you improve, help you elevate, help you learn more. And that was that experience for me as well. So I knew that I had to go in there. I was very confident in my skills and my ability to work. And then I just I plugged in and got to work. And it was such a wonderful experience because I was appointed by President Obama, and you work hard for.
Hold on, wait.
Go ahead.
Say that one more time.
I was appointed in the White House office of the U.S. Trade Representative by President Barack Obama.
Wow.
And to me, I'm very proud of that moment. And I worked for Ambassador Ron Kirk, who used to be former mayor of Dallas, who's also been a mentor to me as well. And I'm very proud of that because when you work and it's so exhausting, 60 days, 70 days go by and it goes by quickly. Then the next moment, you get invited to the White House to an event. You get to shake the president's hand. He says hi to you. I get to fist bump him and say, "Si se puede." And they got to a point where, I kid you not, even my coworkers were like, "Oh, you're the Si se puede guy." Sure enough, I would fist bump and he's like, "Si se puede." He would say the same thing in Spanish back to me. But so it was the best time of my life in terms of work experience and learning so much. And one of the things, again, as I mentioned earlier, my parents immigrated here. And I'll never forget, I had the opportunity to go to the White House, a Christmas party that was at the White House, and I invited my parents to be my guest and took him inside the White House. And as we're walking in the White House, my mom, who was born in Puebla, Mexico, and grew up sort of in central and northern Mexico, stops before we walk into the White House. She turns back and looks at me and says, "As a young girl in Mexico, I never would have thought I would walk into the White House, and much less have a son that works in the White House." And to me, that's a point of pride for me. It was a great moment for me. I felt like I had done everything I could to make my parents proud to get to that moment. And it was just a wonderful time. And sometimes I get emotional. I'm not going to get emotional, Brian, but it's just such a wonderful thing to be able to share with your family.
That is amazing. I sit here as someone who is, even myself, every day trying to learn and be encouraged and motivated. And I'm extremely encouraged and motivated in this moment. I think if I can make my mom that proud one day, I think that would be amazing. But again, I'm going back to a kid from Oak Cliff, first generation college student, to make your mom proud, to fist bump, to be appointed by, and then to fist bump President Obama. That is, that's an opportunity of a lifetime. But I just want to say in this moment, like, everyone who's watching, middle school, high school, college, young professional, regular professional, seasoned senior citizen, like these opportunities are there for us, whether you're seeking them or whether you're a educator such as Karen, who's watching right now, who wants to help educate other people. This is a reality. These things can happen, and Isaac is living proof. Isaac, I watch a podcast or a show. It's called Drink Champs, and the whole idea is to give people their flowers while they're still alive. So I just want to acknowledge, your impact, and acknowledge, the example that you're setting for students, for people like me. This is phenomenal. So thank you again for sharing those things. I want to talk about kind of more specifically the work that you've done. So I want to learn for folks who are watching, and I mentioned I'm trying to get more astute in this area. Why are government affairs and legislative issues so important to our community. And if you think about the folks that we serve, be it Youth Engagement Center or Dallas College, why are these matters so important?
Yeah, it's interesting because when I was at the White House and had that moment with my mom, and she was able to visit a couple of more times afterwards when I was there, and so was my dad and my niece and other family members. But I always share with them when I'm there, it's a great moment that we all share together. But it's also important for them to know that they're a taxpayer, that policies that are being created here are impacting them at home, are impacting all of us in one way or another. And the simplest way I like to break it down is that, to me, when you're involved in advocacy, when you're involved in legislative work, these are policies that impact you from birth to death. I'm not trying to be morbid there, but it literally impacts you from the day you are born to the day you die, because everything that we do is a policy, whether it's a local policy from whether we're in the city of Dallas or Grand Prairie, Arlington, Fort Worth, shout out to Carrollton and Farmers Branch as well, or whether it's the state of Texas, it's a law that's occurring. Right now, we're in the legislative session. Things that are happening in Austin are going to impact us every single day from here until we die. And that's just the reality. So it's important for people to get involved in that. And for me, making that change, in my mind, I wanted to focus on trying to make a positive impact in my community through legislation. And that's how you can do it, by advocating, by getting involved in government relations and working for organizations that are doing really good work, like Dallas College. I mean, I work there now. I'm the chief legislative counsel at Dallas College, and I believe in our mission, not only as a former student, because I started there, it gave me my opportunity, but also what we're doing to help students, whether it's through Dallas Promise, whether it's through partnerships with organizations and companies to get training, whether it's training small businesses or helping small businesses or training people with short-term certifications to get work. I believe in the mission. So policies are really important because of that. Now, it's a state policy, it's a federal policy, it's a local policy. And sometimes we sort of say, you know what, it's too much. I'm gonna take a step back. I'm not going to pay attention. But I challenge you that if someone was to put their hand in your pocket or in your wallet and say, we're gonna take a couple of dollars out because we think it's fair, you start paying attention. And that's how I feel about policies. Not only are they putting their hand in your wallet or your pocket or your purse or whatever the case may be, but they're also coming inside your house. They're saying what's important. They're also impacting your work. They're saying what's important or what should be done. They're impacting higher education as well. So that's what I always tell people. It impacts you from the very first day you're born to the very last day you're on this earth. And that's why it's important to get involved. And as a non-traditional attorney, this is a great thing. There's so many different organizations, Brian. I mean, if you think about it, UT has a set of advocates that go to Congress, that go to the Texas Capitol, that go to our city council to talk about maybe what's important to UT students. Organizations, companies have them as well. So that's why you can get involved in so many different ways. And then there's so many what they call non-governmental organizations that also get involved. So it's really important. It's something that I'm really passionate about, because if we're going to make a change, if we're on a personal note, again, I share about my immigrant story. For me, it's personal that we separate families, kids and their parents. We have immigration issues. How do we get involved? Okay, let's change policies. And to me, that's important. And also social justice issues. What are we doing to making sure that we're protecting, Black lives, that we're protecting those people that are getting pulled over? We have to get involved and we have to advocate. So it's important to me to impact legislation. You can do that in so many different ways on so many different levels.
Thank you for sharing that perspective, because I know even for myself in the last, let's say 6 years, I've tried to be more involved in policy and legislative affairs. And that's one way for people to be involved. You have a variety of ways. That's one way. You can be board member, you can be community advocates, campaigning organizers. So there are several different ways.
Let me add to that really quickly. So, we have elections that are coming up, local elections, ISD elections, city council elections that are coming up in May 1st.
Yeah.
For your audience who are watching live, did you know that if you're 18 and up, the deadline to register for that election is tomorrow, April 1st?
Wow.
So it's important. The really first step that you can do that's easy once you're 18, for those who are not 18, is register to vote, and then vote in every election. If you think people don't listen to you now, they will listen to you when you start voting, because they want to keep their positions in office. So if you really want to make an impact, the easiest thing you can do is register to vote, educate yourself on the issues, and then go vote. And I always say, the one thing Brian, I have in common with Jerry Jones, with Mark Cuban, and with Bill Gates is, guess what? We all have the same power of one vote. So it is an equalizer. So it does make a difference. So please go out and vote. That's the simplest thing you can do.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And like you said, you're trying to find a way to make your voice heard. That is a profound way, and many people fought for the rights for other people to be able to vote who once were not able to vote. So thank you for sharing that. The deadline is tomorrow, April 1st. I'm glad you mentioned that. For those who are watching that need to get registered, there may be a 18-year-old high school student or college freshman who has not registered yet. And so now is the time. So thank you for sharing that. You've kind of alluded to this in some of the spaces we talked about in the White House, how, it was almost a 24-hour job. But I'm curious to know that with everything, there are pros and cons. So what are the ups and downs of your field of work?
That's a really great question, because you're right. There, like every career, there are ups and there are downs. And I'm a positive person, so let me start with the ups. You know what I'm saying? First is that you get to work and impact policies that impact our communities. Policies don't change overnight, and I always want to be upfront about that. We may not see change today, we may not see change tomorrow, but if we stick to it and we bring more people along and unite, we're going to see change. So change does happen, and it may take a little bit longer than some of us would want. So that, to me, that's the pro, making that impact. And it doesn't just impact you, Brian, or me, but it impacts our families, it impacts our friends, our neighbors, our cities, everybody else. So those are the pros. The cons is very similar to what we find in other careers, where it's grueling work. Sometimes you feel like you're pushing a rock up a mountain, a boulder up a mountain, and you're not getting there, and you get tired, you get exhausted, and sometimes that weighs on you personally. It weighs on your family, but that's just the nature of it, because a lot of careers that we may look at, you're going to have to sacrifice. They're going to be tough days, but you have to remember that there's also going to be some sunny days and beautiful days as well. So you just got to kind of keep pushing through. You got to keep fighting. You also have to keep educating yourself. I mentioned earlier about sort of being a nerd and watching political shows and things like that. It never stops. You always have to be fine-tuning your skills. So if you're looking for a career, I always say advocacy, legislative work is not your typical 9-to-5 type of work. It's really a lot of weekends, evenings. Sometimes you get involved in campaigns. And one of the best ways to get involved in this type of work, which is the path I chose, was to get involved in campaigns. I worked on a U.S. Senate race here in Texas. That was a great experience, a lot of hard work. So you have to be involved in sometimes with campaigns, and that can also have its pros and cons. But it's something that you always have to keep learning, always have to keep working, because in my opinion, it doesn't stop. So that may be a con, but to be honest with you, that's sort of what fuels me and what gives me a little bit of adrenaline, is to keep learning, to keep fighting, to keep massaging communication and wording to make sure they understand the point that I'm making. How can I make this easier for someone to understand? How can I break this down for someone to say, oh, I get it. I understand what Isaac is saying, and that's why it's important. And those are good challenges to have, and those are challenges that I like to face.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Like you said, there's in every job that, no matter how passionate you are, there'll be some uphill battles that you have to face, challenges. But I think the pros, if you're in this line of work, to kind of create avenues and create a better atmosphere, create better societies and communities, I think the pros outweigh the cons, and the passion that you have kind of fuels it. So thank you for sharing that. I have one more question. I have a couple of questions that came in through the chat. So there may be a variety of people watching. There may be, someone in high school that's looking to take that next step to college. There may be a college student who's looking to take the next step, whether it's law school or grad school, or someone of all ages. Can you share what advice you have, for people who are preparing to take that next step, to go to law school, to go to college? What what advice do you have for them in their daily grind, in their motivation and ambition to get there? What do you have?
First and foremost, you have to keep the faith, stay hopeful. You're going to get to where you want to go, but you have to put the time. So I always say you have to keep the faith and just keep working hard, keep learning. And I think I may have touched on this earlier. Be a better writer. Take time, read as much as possible. And I'm not saying you have to open up the encyclopedia and read every page, but just read things that are interesting to you or you want to learn and expand your knowledge on something. Read about it. I try to read, I don't know how many newspapers in the morning electronically. Obviously, I don't have any newspapers delivered at home, but electronically, I try to read as much as I can, from the New York Times to the Dallas Morning News to the Washington Post to the Texas Tribune, which is a strictly online publication. I just try to read to learn as much as possible. And for me, it helps to take notes, to write things down, to be able to comprehend them, and then try to break them down so I can understand and maybe explain them to someone else. But definitely read as much as possible. Write. I can't say it enough. Write. Practice your writing. We need better writers in society because, whether you're in law or advocacy or anything else, the better of a writer you are, the better of a job, in my opinion, you're able to get. So definitely keep the faith, read, keep learning, keep writing. Those are the first few things. And I always like to share this. If you're going into law, don't worry about learning the criminal code. Don't worry about learning tort reform in Texas. Don't worry about those things. When you get to law school, it's going to be a little bit different, and you'll learn what you need to learn to pass your exams and then prepare for the ultimate exam, which is the State Bar of Texas licensing exam that you need to take, the State Bar. So again, just focus on reading, focus on writing, put the time, put the effort in, keep the faith. But again, the three things I harp back on is build and protect your network. That's going to help you. You also want to do that. You'll work hard. I already mentioned that, read and write, and be kind. If you're kind to people, that's going to pay off, and you'll see that in the future.
I'm so glad that you put it at that level, because being kind and being polite goes a long way. You mentioned your mom and how kind she was at the salon. That goes a long way, and people truly remember your kindness, even if you helped them with a problem, if you bought lunch for someone, if you took a phone call, if you answered an email, if you smiled and held the door open for them, people remember that. So that's a great tip. And then the other part, you mentioned it before as well, was the networking piece. And I can say, a lot of the opportunities that I've gotten have been because of network, because someone I knew was able to vouch for me, because probably I was kind at some place in my life. But what you're saying is so profound, and it's at the level that we all have the ability to control. We have the ability to control how kind we are, how we respond, our work ethic, our attitude, and the people that we connect with. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, no, that's very true, Brian. We definitely have that opportunity. And maybe for some students, whether they're in middle school or high school and watching, and they're like, okay, network, I get it, but can you maybe expand a little bit on it? Yeah. So one of the things that now everyone has social media, whether it's TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, something I don't even know about maybe going on that people are on right now. That's part of your network, because as you grow into high school or you grow into college and then a young career, it's easier to build your network, because now you're in contact with all those people, all those individuals throughout your life, throughout your career. And those people they'll be in Dallas, they'll be in Austin, they'll be in Washington, they'll be in London, Mexico City, Madrid, you name it, Tokyo, they'll be everywhere. And that network is what I'm talking about. You're building those sort of friendships, and you're keeping in contact with them. And then you have to protect it at the same time. So right. I just wanted to sort of break that down a little bit for some students that are watching. So that's what your network is. And please let me be part of your network. I'm always happy to answer questions. And I don't know, we have a graphic department, but I made something real quick. So here's my handle. I'm always happy to answer questions about anything from UT to higher ed to my experiences. Is Isaac Foz. That's my handle for most social media. So I'm happy to be part of that network and help you out as well.
That's awesome. That graphic works. I saw it clearly. I need to make a graphic myself. So we have a question from a student. So Jose is a sophomore, and he wants to know, how was the internship with Univision and what lessons did you take from it?
Oh, one of my favorite subjects is talking about Univision because I started as an intern in high school. I was at Skyline High School when I started there, and I was very lucky. I was able to talk my way into an internship at that time because I wasn't really their first choice, to be honest with you. But I made a solid case for myself why I should be an intern there. The wonderful thing about interning at Univision or maybe even another news station or newspaper is that you get a lot of real world experience. You get to see things happen in real time and it happens fast. One of the things that was my big takeaway from Univision, and I'm bilingual, I speak Spanish, so that was really helpful for me. And I was able to improve my Spanish as well at Univision and able to practice it every day I was there. But also the one thing I really sort of learned at Univision was, how do we craft a message, right? We covered so many stories and they have to compile all that in 30 minutes and then you have to share that message. So how do you craft a message? How do we get our point across in Spanish or English or another language? And how do we make that connection with people at home who are watching? That was really important and a really good lesson for me. Also, I learned how to work under pressure. 5 o'clock means 5 o'clock. We don't go live at 5:05. We don't go live at 5:03. We go live at 5. Everything has to be done before then. So it was really eye-opening experience to move quickly, to make decisions, prioritize, and get things done because live at 5 means live at 5.
Wow. Yeah, I'm a big fan of internships. I mean, I value the work that I did at Winn-Dixie. And if you're young, you probably don't even remember Winn-Dixie, but I value the work that I did pushing buggies and scanning groceries and scrubbing toilets. I value that work. It taught me a lot. But had I had the opportunity to be at a TV station or a law firm or some corporation, I think I would have, maybe learned a few things a little sooner. So yeah, I'm a big fan of internships. So thank you for sharing. Yeah.
And Brian, I was just going to say, and I wrote about that in my essay as well. I mean, I talk about my experience at Univision. And when I got to the University of Texas at Austin, that was really helpful for me because my scholarship was based on my experience that was very unique and different. So real life experience goes a long way. So if you can find an internship, I definitely recommend it.
Right. And if you can align your interest with your internship, with your major, I think you're building a great path. So that's one of the messages we try to share. So we have Karen, who Karen is a leadership coach for teens, and she wants to know what leadership skills would have made the difference for you if you would have learned if you would have been mentored as you were a teen. Like, so if you would have been mentored, if you would have been coached, which type of skills would have helped mold you and help you navigate through the process?
That's a great question, Karen. Thank you for asking that. I'm going to say two things. One thing I should have done more, and I'm going to sound like a broken record, but one thing I wish a leadership skill in sense of, I wish I would have had a mentor that gave me more exposure into opportunities.
Yeah.
That gave me those opportunities to do presentations, to speak in front of organizations, to maybe introducing more to the legislative process early, things like that. Because once you have that exposure and you're able to practice and you're able to meet those other individuals, that really sort of ups your game as well, because you're able to learn from everyone else. So I wish I would have had more exposure and a mentor that could have said, okay, Isaac, here's sort of a path, maybe not your path, but this is what, quote unquote, he or she would have said I did. And this is something that you can learn from. That exposure, I think, would have been helpful as well. But then also something that I should have done is definitely read more and write more, because that would have helped me out tremendously in law school when I got there.
Yeah. And I'm going to help keep emphasizing the importance of reading. Even myself, I'm trying to do a better job of that. I have young kids, and my wife is extremely good about this, is reading to them and infusing them with all sorts of information. Now, we're heavy in dinosaurs right now, so I don't know how much dinosaur information I can take in, but I'm talking to them about being involved in their community. We're talking about financial literacy. So the more we can read, and if you can identify your interest areas and your passions sooner, then you can get that internship and then you can go beyond to the next level. So The reading is important, and then the exposure. So one of the reasons why we do the speaker series is to expose people again to different career opportunities, to different backgrounds and journeys for that level of exposure. And I'm segueing into this last question. Tom wanted to know more about our mission and what we do with the UT Youth Engagement Center here in Dallas. And so our mission is all around providing experiences, relationships, and opportunities to help students grow to be leaders who pursue their purpose and change the world because they know what their purpose is. They've learned how to explore those pathways. So one of the ways we do that is through the field of education. And so if you are a current middle school or high school student, then we want to connect with you. We also connect through various schools. So we work with 17 schools in Dallas ISD, and then also Lancaster, DeSoto, Duncanville, and Cedar Hill. But we don't stop there. So because of technology and because of the pandemic, we've been able to do more, such as what you're seeing right now on YouTube and reaching out to different students outside of the school setting to offer information like this. So if you browse our YouTube page, you'll find a wealth of videos where what we want to do is talk to students about how to communicate effectively, how to read your financial aid award, how to have a sense of financial literacy so that you can start saving for college, how to communicate with your parents that you even want to go to college because you may be a first generation student, how to understand what I want to major in, so how to select the college that I want to attend. So that's sort of the work that we do, but even more so, how can we surround students with people such as Isaac Foz, who come from a similar background, to have the same level of career trajectory that he's had? How do we continue to connect with our students who are in college at UT to help them get to the next level as young professionals? And even for young professionals, I don't know about you, Isaac, but it took me until I was about 26 to really mature and, begin to be serious about where I wanted to go in life professionally. So even with our young professionals, this is an opportunity for them to stay connected with us and learn different intricacies of being connected, growing as a leader, growing in your skill set. So we're trying to cover it from a bunch of different angles. I believe the pandemic has kind of catapulted us in the sense of being able to connect virtually through YouTube, through social media, through Google Classrooms. So that's a little bit, Tom, about what we're doing and the work that we do. So Isaac, you want to add to that?
I just want to add to what you said earlier, is that you said changes the world, and I think that's really important to emphasize on that, because I will say at the University of Texas, I joined my fraternity, Sigma Lambda Beta, that I'm very proud of being a member. And one of the things I learned through my organization at UT that I still do today through various organizations. I'm the immediate past president of the Dallas Hispanic Bar Association. But one of the things I've learned to do even to this day in that organization is volunteer and give back. And that's so important because we did talk about advocacy legislation and changing policies. But if we're going to change the world, we have to give back. We have to find ways to volunteer. When our neighbors are down, we have to find a way to help them out. When people are hungry, we find a way to get them food. Whether it's a food drive, whether we're volunteering, whether we're recruiting attorneys to help families in need, it's about giving back, and that really changes the world. And that's something that to me really was rooted during my time at the University of Texas at Austin and with my fraternity as well.
Well, thank you for sharing that. We thank Jose, we thank Karen, we thank Tom for your questions and for watching. You can follow Isaac at Isaac Foz on social media. I did not make my graphic, like I was not prepared, but you can follow the UT Youth Engagement Center Dallas at UTYEC_Dallas on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook as well. If you just type out UT Youth Engagement Center in Dallas, you can find us. So we are, again, glad that you are on, Isaac. We're thankful for you sharing. I know that this is going to impact someone's life. So I just want to close by giving you the opportunity to share any last words of wisdom or insight that you may have.
No, last words is, again, build and protect your network. I sound like a broken record, and I'm sorry, but it's super important.
Good.
Yeah, you got to, right? You have to build and protect your network. You have to work hard, and you have to be kind. And I just want to say thank you, gracias, Brian, for this opportunity. I really enjoyed it. Really enjoy sharing my story. And please, I'm being very sincere and honest. If you have a question or if I can be helpful, you have my handle. Follow me. Let me know. Reach out to me, and I'm always happy to help out. Hook 'em horns. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Isaac.